Hello. Day 5 of the challenge is here. Can you believe it? I can't even believe that it's Friday. I feel like this week has just flown by, and you probably feel the same way. Maybe you're a little bit different person today than you were at the beginning of this week, or at least I hope that's the case. That's one of the goals of this challenge. I do want to do a quick moment of celebration for you because you made it. Like, you're here on day 5, and to be honest, not everybody who started day 1 made it to day 5, and that's okay. I believe that everyone is going to get out of this challenge the things that they need to get out of this challenge. But for you, the fact that you made it this far means that you really are committed to transformation. You're really committed to transforming your life and your body, and frankly, not everybody has that same level of commitment. And sadly, some of those women who don't have that kind of commitment are some of the women who probably dropped off during the challenge, and they're going to remain stuck, and they're going to remain spinning their wheels. But that's not you, right? You made it back. You made it here. That is worth celebrating. That is worth recognizing that you're changing, and that's a big, big deal. If you remember, on day 1 of the challenge, I helped you create a definition for success. Do you remember what the definition of success was this week? Let me tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I have to listen to every single live that Amber does. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I have to finish every single assignment that is, I have to submit every single assignment. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I have to do every single thing on the bingo card. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I have to do all of the things, right? That wasn't the definition of success. Do you remember what it was? The definition of success was, did you take more action towards your goals this week than you would have if you did not sign up for the challenge? If you have done that, then this week was a success, okay? And if you're like a lot of my successful clients, you're likely asking yourself, what's next, Amber? What's next? So today, I'm gonna be revealing the 5 ingredients for lasting, permanent transformation. Plus, I will show you how using macro counting, which I introduced yesterday, the right way, not the way that most people are teaching it, in your own personalized plan is really that bridge that connects your your goals to your results, okay? And before we, move forward together today and go through a lot of really awesome content that's gonna blow your mind, I just wanna take a look back and celebrate how far that you've come over the last 5 days. You've learned a lot this week. You learned that you cannot create results without action. You also know that not all action is equal. Taking the right action at the right time is what creates transformation. If you remember, we kicked off day 1 and we identified your starting point and understanding, the things that you have done that have got you to this point. What got you here won't get you there. And so we have to understand what got you here. On day 2, you learned about setting concrete, specific, binary goals. You took your unique finish line and you created milestones. And we focused on learning about process goals and outcome goals and what happens and what shifts occur in your mind and in your results when you start to focus on the process goals, things that are within your control. And it made the process of getting that outcome result a lot clearer. Okay? Then on day 3, we identified a couple of the common blocks that keep women sabotaging themselves. And we started to break down those blocks that maybe until this point were invisible to you. And then on day 4, we addressed some common myths about what weight loss requires, and we got clear on why macro counting is a great tool for weight loss that actually lasts, right? It's not about cutting out sugar or going to bed beating yourself up for failing your diet. We taught that your body sees calories and macronutrients, and it doesn't see healthy or unhealthy. Your body needs a certain number of each of the macros, of carbs, fat, and protein to be able to be fueled optimally. And there is a sweet spot for you. A sweet spot where you are in a caloric deficit because scientifically that is required. And you are eating enough of each of the macronutrients to most optimally fuel your body. And when you find that sweet spot, weight loss becomes easy and, dare I say, even a little bit fun. Okay, now nobody can just look at you and pinpoint where that sweet spot is. Okay, so anytime a calculator or a coach is like, this is it, this is your sweet spot, I just want you to maybe think a little bit in your mind and recognize that your sweet spot is not found at one point. Your sweet spot is determined over time by feedback from your body. Okay? And so today, I'm going to be helping you determine those next steps so that you can continue to build on the momentum that you've already started building this week. Cool? Now, as you look back over the week, we've learned a lot, right? I kind of went over some of the learnings that we've had, but I also want you to take a little bit of an internal look into yourself. And chances are you've had some pretty big realizations this week, right? We have the mind-blown emoji that we've been throwing up all week when you have a realization and you're starting to feel maybe a shift in yourself. You're starting to build some momentum in your life. And unlike many of the challenges or coaching maybe you've done before, you've realized that a lot of the internal work that we've done this week is what is going to cause a huge shift in your journey moving forward. And I do hope you realize that by showing up here, showing up for yourself, doing just one single action this week, it shows you are changing. You're becoming more confident. You're becoming more fit. You're becoming that woman that you want to be, and it wasn't really that hard, was it? Just some simple daily action steps curated by a coach who has walked thousands of women through this process to be able to just give you that taste of clarity, one step at a time, and a taste of what success can feel like. Now, during day 4 of the challenge, I introduced you to the identity of macroscience. Remember back on day 1, I said a lot of you are coming to the challenge with the question, what do I need to do to get the results that I want? And I told you a better question is, who do I need to be to get those results? And so on day 4, I introduced you to the macro scientist, the woman who is able to customize this process to herself, the woman who's able to make logical and data-driven decisions instead of having it be a roller coaster of emotion, the woman who understands her body and knows how to receive feedback from her body. She's able to make adjustments and pivot during her journey without it becoming this big emotional thing. Now, when I introduce the identity of the macro scientist, I always get the question, how do I do that, Amber? That sounds fantastic. What do I need to do to get there? What steps do I need to take? And that's what I'm going to be revealing today. Those steps that my clients have repeatedly proven to work, which means that these steps are also going to work for you. Now, before we walk through the steps, let me ask you a question. What happens when you bake a cake and you forget an ingredient, right? Even though you got all the other ingredients, if you forget the baking powder, the cake is going to fail. True story. I typed into Google cake fail, and this is what I got, right? So even if you get 99% of the ingredients, if you miss the baking powder, your cake is not going to turn out. And the same thing happens in your fitness journey. The 5 steps that I'm going to reveal are your ingredients for success. And if you're missing one of these ingredients, well, now you'll know maybe why you haven't been as successful as you've wanted to be in the past. And so it really is about incorporating these 5 ingredients as your recipe for success. Okay? So a quick run through these ingredients, and then I'll break these down way more in depth as we keep going today. Ingredient number 1 is to set your starting macros. Ingredient number 2 is to design your customized meal plan. Ingredient number 3 is removing those pesky mental blocks. Number 4 is making data-driven adjustments, and number 5 is executing your reverse diet. Now, your goal will be to move seamlessly through these steps, through these 5 steps, experiencing real, visible progress every step of the way. Okay, now that we've identified these 5 ingredients, I'm going to start filling in the plan for you of each step. Let's start with number 1, ingredient number 1, which is setting your starting macros. When you use macro counting as a tool, your very first step is to set your starting macros. Some of you guys are already itching to do this. Some of you have already done it. Great. Let's talk about it though, because there's some blind spots that a lot of people have with this part of the process. So remember yesterday we talked about finding your sweet spot, right? Step 1 is figuring out what would be a caloric deficit for your body without being too low. Right? Because, and we'll talk about this during step 5, so I'm gonna dive much more into this process in step 5, but let me introduce it. If your calories are too low, you're going to have faster metabolic adaptation. And you already know this, it's much harder to stick to it when you're hungry and you don't have energy and your calories are too low. It's not enjoyable in the slightest, and we know that this has to be enjoyable in order to be effective. Once you've figured out where that caloric deficit needs to be, then you can break those calories into the 3 different macros so that you'll have an idea of where to start with customized numbers for you. Okay? My clients that get the best results, all of them started here with getting macros customized to them and their body. Now, people who struggling macro counters, they don't really understand this process at all. Sometimes they just follow, they go into MyFitnessPal and MyFitnessPal gives them numbers and they just follow those numbers. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Other people just go into a calculator and it pops out some numbers and they're like, well, I guess I'll follow these. Some people, hire somebody to give them numbers. But I want you to understand that again, did you notice when I said that this ingredient was set your starting macros? I didn't say set your finishing macros, set your macros. I said set your starting macros. As a macro scientist, I want you to understand that your starting macros are not your ending macros. Okay, so where you start is not where you end. We need to get started with something, and then over time, we're going to zero in on what's gonna be best for you. So hopefully that makes you breathe a sigh of relief. You don't have to get your starting macros perfect. They don't have to be perfect. In fact, most people's aren't. That's not the goal. The goal is to get started with something that is customized to you so that we can start. Remember I talked about you can't move a parked car? Let's get the car moving and we can make adjustments over time. Right? And by this point, you know that customization is so important. We've talked a lot about customization and how fitting yourself into another diet rarely works. And so one of the beautiful things about macro counting is that we can customize numbers to you. Right? Now, again, this step, while it seems very simple on the surface level, it trips a lot of women up. And let me tell you why. It is because if you are trying to set your macros and you haven't taken a step back and decided what phase you need to be in, your macros are going to be wrong. Okay? A lot of women go to these calculators, they go to my free guide, they go to wherever, and they are like, okay, this thing is asking me, what do I want? And of course I want to lose weight. So they click the lose weight button and then they get numbers that are in a deficit, when in reality, you should not be in a deficit right now. And so let me talk a little bit about some of the phases that are really important to understand so that you can start to identify, hey, if I'm going to set my starting macros, make sure I'm setting my starting macros for the correct phase that I need to be in. So these are the 4 phases: maintenance, cutting, bulking, and reversing. Now, if this is the first time you've ever heard of these 4 phases, don't you worry, I'm going to guide you through all of these. But these are the 4 phases. And I love to show this graph because I think it's really helpful to kind of do a zoom out approach on all of these, especially if these terms are new for you. Maintenance is a pretty easy one to understand. Maintenance is when you're eating the same amount of calories that you're burning. It's like an equal energy balance. I burn the same amount of calories as I eat. Okay? Now, if you burn less calories than you eat, you are in a caloric deficit. You're not eating as many calories as you burn. And in the macro counting world, you'll hear people talk about cutting. I'm going into a cut. That's what they mean, is they're simply attempting to consume less calories than they burn. On the other end of the spectrum is what we call a bulk. A bulk is eating more calories than you burn and, what is not on the slide but really important to point out, lifting weights with progressive overload. Okay, so you're in a caloric surplus, and the point of that caloric surplus is to put on more muscle. And then you'll see that little piece that's in between the cut and the maintenance, which is called a reverse diet. And we'll dive much more into a reverse diet in just a little bit. Okay, but understanding that there are different phases, and what a lot of people think that this process looks like is this. How many of you guys are guilty of this? It's like anytime I start counting macros, anytime I focus on my nutrition, anytime I I'm starting a fitness journey, this is my default. It's like cut, 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 cut. Or for some of you, it's like cut, throw your hands up in the air, eat all the things. Cut, throw your hands up in the air, eat all the things. Cut, throw your hands up in the air, eat all the things. So some of you are having a mind blown because you're like, oh my gosh, this is me, Amber. This is what I do. No wonder it hasn't been working. When in reality, what the process needs to look a little bit more like is something like this. Maybe you go through a cut, but then you intentionally reverse and you have an intentional maintenance period. And then you have a subsequent cut, and then you have some maintenance time, and then maybe you go into a bulk, and then you have some more maintenance time, right? Or maybe some of you need to start with a reverse. Some of you think that you want to go into a cut because you're like, I need to lose weight, Amber, but you really need to start with a reverse. And then have some maintenance. I know that's really hard to hear. And then you can go into a cut. But notice how many of these boxes are yellow. Yellow is maintenance, my friends. Way too many women don't ever hit that phase. When was the last time you intentionally, not unintentionally, like you were focused on maintaining your weight? You're tracking macros just to maintain. You're eating food and your goal is simply to maintain your weight. Most women, I would say about 90 to 95% of the women that I ask this question to who haven't been through my program, that they're like, I've never done that before. I've never intentionally maintained weight. Every time I track macros, it's always to lose weight. So understanding that there are these 4 phases, and you cannot just come here and say, I want to lose weight, thus I should go into a cut. For some of you, you need to be doing a reverse. Some of you need to be doing a bulk. And some of you need to be spending some time at maintenance. And some of you need to go into a cut. Okay? Now, when you join Macros 101, you'll get access to a flow chart that makes it really simple to determine your phases. Plus, there's coaching in there, so you'll be able to confirm your choice with a coach. That's something that's reserved for our clients. But I do want to give you some questions that you can start to mull over so that you can determine what phase perhaps you need to be starting in. Question number 1, what is your priority right now? If you notice on that chart that I showed you, losing fat and gaining muscle are at opposite ends of the spectrum. They're in opposite optimal environments. So oftentimes I'll ask women, what do you want? And they're like, I want to lose fat and gain muscle. Fantastic, everybody wants that. But understand that those are in opposite optimal environments, okay? And so what's your priority? Is your priority right now losing fat, or is your priority gaining muscle? Because if your priority is losing fat, then maybe we're going to go into a reverse or a cut. But if your priority is gaining muscle, perhaps you need to be at maintenance for a while or even going into a bulk. Another question, how long have you been dieting? The longer you have been dieting, the more likely it is you need to start with a reverse. Okay? And some of you are feeling a little called out right now. And there's a voice in the back of the head saying, maybe you need to do a reverse. Listen to it. Listen to it. Another question, how adherent have you been to your plan? Have you been that person who's like, cut, it's like go into a deficit, swing way far the other way, right? I showed you that pendulum, that like binge restrict cycle. If that's been you, like I talked about yesterday, where it's like binge, restrict, going into a cut is probably not the right phase for you. Either a reverse or maintenance is likely going to be a better phase. What results have you been seeing? What have you been doing in the past and what results that you're seeing? If you have been doing something and you're seeing results, we don't need to change it. But a lot of you are coming here today because you're feeling stuck or you're feeling frustrated or discouraged because what you've been doing isn't working. So if what you've been doing isn't working, why are we continuing to do it, right? What got you here won't get you there. And then the last question is, what adjustments have you made to this point? Have you made any tweaks? Have you made any adjustments? Now, a lot of people don't understand macro counting enough to make their own adjustments, and that is something that I am working to change in the industry. I think that everybody can understand your body well enough to know how to make adjustments. Okay, and we'll talk about that in phase 4. So, once you know your phase, now setting your starting macros becomes much easier. And when you're done with this phase, when you're done with this, step of setting your macros, you're going to have a calorie goal, a carb goal, a protein goal, and a fat goal for the day. So then we move on to ingredient number 2, which is to then create your customized meal plan. Once you have your goal macros, what the heck do you eat to be able to hit them? That's always the question that I get next. Now, let's talk a little bit about this topic of quote unquote hit your macros. Okay, because once you have those macros, then everybody starts to be telling you, well, now the next step is to hit your macros. And maybe you're like, well, what does that mean? And some of you are like, Roger that. This is the rule. I have to hit my macros. If I don't hit my macros, then, I'm worthless. I'm never going to get results, okay? So we talked about this yesterday of that like macro diet, or turning your macros into a diet where it's like, this is the rule and you have to follow it. So I give these numbers to you with a caution. Okay, with a caution. And the caution is that this is a guideline, not a rule. What do you think is the difference between a guideline and a rule? And if you can't see the slide, it says hitting your macros aiming for plus or minus 5 grams for carbs and protein, plus or minus 2 grams for fat, and plus or minus 100 calories, okay? So what do you think the difference is between a guideline and a rule? This is a really important point. A guideline is much more fluid. It's much more customized. It's much more unique, or unique to the person, right? So I think of guidelines as kind of like bumpers on when I go bowling, right? Now, a rule would be like, you know, when you pull the little like slide, like when you go with kids and you like pull the little slide down and you just like drop it on that same pathway, that's like a rule. It's like, this is the way you have to go. Whereas guidelines are much more flexible, right? It's much more flexible. There's like a range. You could be at this side of it. You could be at this side of it. And so when I put these up and I talk about hitting your macros, what I do not want you to take away from this is like, oh my gosh, Amber says I have to hit my macros and I'm not hitting my macros, and that's a problem. Okay, that is turning macros into a diet, and we don't want to do that because it doesn't work. Okay, so I give you that as a guideline. And we investigate this and explore this a lot more inside of Macros 101, but I don't want you to turn it into a diet, just like we talked about yesterday. So here's what I love to tell my clients. The real goal isn't to hit your macros. That's not the real goal. The real goal is to develop consistent input so you can adjust based on feedback from your body. The real goal is, can you have some sort of consistency? Because if we can have some sort of consistency, we can get this feedback loop going. I love I love to share this graphic of like this machine where on one side is the input into the machine. And then something happens in the middle of this machine, like lots of crazy things go on. And then it pops out, boop, a result. And one of the things, and one of the reasons macro counting is so effective is because when we have a consistent input, I don't really care what said consistent input is, but when we have some sort of consistent input put into the top, we can get some sort of consistent result, and then we can look at the result and say, is that the result that I want? If yes, keep going. If no, then we can change the input. And that is what makes macro counting powerful. It's not the exact numbers, it's not the exact macros. What makes macro counting powerful is this ability to be able to put in consistent input, get a result, and then ask yourself the question, do I like this or do I not? And if you don't like it, then have the power to change it, okay? So I'm not a big fan of purchasing meal plans. I feel like it has all the problems with like another diet, right? It's like somebody else created the freaking meal plan. What if you don't like broccoli? What if you don't want to eat tuna tonight, okay? So in the ingredient number 2, notice I said designing your own customized meal plan. So what's the difference between purchasing a meal plan and creating your own? Well, of course, it's who's in charge, right? You're in charge. You get to pick what you can eat. Okay, now maybe you like bristled a little bit and you're like, oh, Amber, a meal plan sounds so restrictive. But rest assured, when this is customized to you and it's created by you with the foods you like, not just those things that you think, oh, I should be eating this, then it's easy. Like you want to follow the plan because you're like, dang, today, see for me, it was ice cream. It was like every night I was like, ice cream. Dang, I'm so excited about that. Like I'm excited about my day. I can't wait for that ice cream tonight, right? I built my meal plan in a way that I liked, that I enjoyed. So it wasn't like a drudge to try and follow through, okay? So a lot of women are trying to use willpower to follow a generic meal plan. And it's the exact reason that you're feeling stuck. So what if it was easy and it took less than 5 minutes a day to create a plan that was filled with foods that you liked, you enjoyed, you were looking forward to it? How much more successful do you think that you would be following that plan? Now, I talked a little bit about this, but the process that I teach inside of Macros 101 for creating a customized meal plan allowed me to eat a bowl of ice cream every single night and get a 6-pack. So when I say that this works, trust me. And I will, inside of Macros 101 too, because some people are like, I really like a lot of freedom, Amber. I don't like this idea of like, I need to eat X, Y, and Z. What if I want to eat something different, right? So I teach you how to build a meal plan in a way that fits with your personality and fits with the kind of foods you like to like and the kind of spontaneity you like to have. Some people are like all down for like having a meal plan and like creating it and then following it. They love that. They love the structure. And some of you are like, whoa, what if I want to eat something else, okay? Both of you can be successful and both of you can create a plan that's going to work for you. Remember, this is not about more restriction. It's about breaking out of the feeling of restriction. Restriction is the enemy. We want to get as far away from restriction as possible. And, we dive a lot deeper into this topic inside of Macros 101. Okay, ingredient number 3, remove the mental blocks. Okay, so if you're like most of my clients, once you start doing something different, in this case, using macro counting as a tool in your journey, self-sabotage is going to rear its head. And now, because we talked about this a lot in day 3, that it's simply a matter of mental blocks standing in the way of creating the results that you want. And unless you address those mental blocks, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to continue spinning your wheels, wondering why the heck I can't be consistent. Okay, and like we discussed on day 3, you're focusing on the symptom, not the problem. And the problem is that you can't change what you can't see. And these mental blocks, you don't even know they're there. They're like the roots of the weed, right? They're below the surface. But if you leave them there, they're going to keep popping up. Doesn't matter how many times you pull off the head of a dandelion, it's going to continue to pop up until you get the root. And, like the roots of the weed, if you can't see these mental blocks, if you don't know that they're there, how the heck are you going to remove them? So in day 3, we walked through a very high-level view of this process of bringing awareness to the blocks and then starting to shift them. We started to ask questions. We started to kind of counter the beliefs. We started to maybe replace them with more effective ones. This is a process like peeling back onion layers, because there's likely layers of belief that, like the fish in the water, you don't even know that they're there. But if you are currently finding yourself starting and stopping and quitting on your goals, you now know you have some invisible mental blocks that need to be addressed. How do you do that? Well, this is where effective transformational coaching really starts to shine. Now, I'm not here to bash on any coaches. I truly believe there are amazing, big-hearted coaches out there who are all doing the best that they can. And I think it's really important for you, as you're looking for a coach, that you understand that just because someone calls themselves a coach doesn't mean they are actually an effective coach, or that they can coach on this deeper level. Okay, so I want to walk through some of the types of coaching that I have seen, and if I'm being honest, some of the types of coaching I've worked through myself to be able to get to the ability to be able to coach clients on a deeper level. When I first started out, this was absolutely me. It was like I was the coach who essentially was the teacher. It was like I felt like if I taught my clients enough that they would just magically change, because I thought, at least at that time, that once you knew better, you did better. But as I started working with clients, I realized how silly that was. Like, we all know things that we don't do. For years, I knew I was supposed to floss my teeth, and I didn't do it, right? So knowledge in and of itself doesn't actually create change. And it doesn't create long-lasting internal change. So there's a lot of coaches out there that this is their go-to. It's like, when they say, I'm going to coach you, what they really mean is I'm going to teach you. Now, teaching is important. Education is important. I love learning. I think learning is important. But I also talked about on day 1 how many of us stay stuck in the content consuming mode instead of the content implementation mode. There's a lot of coaches out there who are just the cheerleader. And I see this a ton, especially coaches who are newer to the industry, because they don't, first of all, people like to be cheered. I'm all for celebration. I think that's really important. And so they feel like, well, if I just cheer on my clients, then that will give them the results that they want. And I saw this a lot when I had clients come over to me from other coaches. They're like, I would submit my, here's how my week went. And all I would get back from the coach was like, good job, keep going. And that's great. I love that. And I'm looking for more. I'm looking for something deeper than just, yeah, you did a good job, or you suck, you need to do better. Okay? The third type is the advice giver, and I would say this is prevalent in our industry because coaches get results for themselves and then they feel like they can give advice to everybody, as if everybody is the same person as they are. And even if they get results for some of their clients, they'll take that and they'll extrapolate it onto a greater population. And so a lot of coaches are going out there and being like, do this, do that, don't do that. Here, make this adjustment. Here's how you're going to handle the weekend. And it comes from a good place. I'm not saying it doesn't come from a good place. It comes from a place of wanting to help. but I've drilled this into you over and over and over again that you are not like anybody else. How can I give you advice when I don't live your life? I don't know the intricacies of what you like and don't like and can and can't do and your time constraints. And so I find a lot of coaches get stuck in this advice giving of telling people what to do. It's also what people think that they want. So if you've ever walked around telling yourself, just tell me what to do. I get it. It feels easier. But nobody giving you advice lives your life. So how can they give you really good advice? And then that brings us to the transformational coach. Now, the transformational coach includes all of these, right? Like as a transformational coach, I am teaching, I am celebrating with my clients. Even sometimes you will get me to give advice. It's not often, but I do guide my clients. But a transformational coach is a mirror. A transformational coach is a mirror for the clients, and it helps somebody apply the lessons or the knowledge that they have gained, right? I talked about the difference between gaining content, learning content, and applying content. As a transformational coach, my job is to help you to apply that content. And when blocks come up, help you to remove the blocks, help you to figure out what they are, help you to remove them so that you can take the action forward. I'm not a guru. I'm not going to tell you everything that you need to do because I don't know. But the person who does is sitting right here watching this video. That's you, if you didn't guess who that was. And so my job as a coach is to guide you. It's to ask you really good questions. It's to help uncover those things that are keeping you stuck, those mental blocks. I'm really good. My clients will tell you I am really good at helping figure out what's keeping you stuck. And it usually isn't what you think it is. And then I'm really good at helping you work through it, to remove those mental blocks so it makes this process a lot easier. So whether you come and coach with me or you go coach someone else, doesn't matter. What matters to me is I want to make sure that you're finding somebody who can coach from this level. Someone who's not going to just give you advice, someone who's not just going to teach you, someone who's not just going to say, yay, way to go, but in actuality is going to help you to uncover what is actually keeping you stuck so that you can have long-lasting transformation. Okay, step number 4 is making data-driven decisions. And this is where we really get into this idea of the scientist and putting on the scientist hat and figuring out our bodies and learning from feedback. This is the step, my friends, that if you yesterday were like, man, Amber, you called me out, I'm a macro dieter. This is the step that separates that macro dieter, the one who doesn't understand how to wield macros. Maybe someone gave her macros and they adjust them for her and she's like, I just follow them, I don't know. You know, that macro dieter who's turned macros into a diet with rules and guilt and she feels shame if she doesn't hit her macros, right? This is the step that separates the macro dieter from the macro scientist. You see, most women make a vital mistake when they count macros. They set their macros and then they believe success is just as easy as, well, following those numbers to the finish line. Which is like saying that you can use a single vehicle to travel around the world, right? If I was like, I'm just going to use a car and I'm going to travel around the entire world, that would work great as I was traveling across the United States, but then I would get to the Atlantic Ocean and I'd be like, oh crap, this car worked really great to get me across the United States, and it's now terrible for the next part of my journey. I really need to get on a boat, right? So the same things apply to your macros. There's a reason that the first step is setting your starting macros. But you're starting to realize that your starting macros will not be your finishing macros. And so just like you need to swap out your vehicle to be able to go around the world for the different terrains you're going to hit, if you want to avoid plateauing, you'll need to adjust your macros throughout your journey. Now, most dieters make these pivotal decisions based on emotion. They step on the scale, it's down, woohoo! You know, they step on the scale, it's up, boo, frustrated, disappointment. And it impacts the decisions that they make that day. So as the scientist, I'm helping to coach my clients to be able to separate emotion from data so that you can let the data drive your decisions. And if you're like most, you may be asking this question, well, what data should I be collecting, Amber? That's what I'm going to reveal in a minute. I got you, girl. But first, part of you may be thinking that, well, okay, that sounds fine, Amber, but that seems really complex and hard. Seems really hard to be able to go through this whole process. I just want someone to do it for me. And to be honest, most coaches want you to believe that it's really hard. Because then you'll keep dishing out money every month for them to adjust your macros for you. But That is not my MO. I'm not that type of coach. Our goal in Macros 101 is not to hold anything back. I hope you've seen that this week. The amount of free content that I've given during this week, I hope that you appreciate how much it has been. My goal is not to hold things back. I don't protect trade secrets. I don't hold the keys to your success so that you have to keep paying me. That's not how I go through things. When I was growing up, my mom used to always tell me, she used to say, Amber, my job as a parent is to work myself out of a job. That's my job. By the time you get to 18, my job is to have worked myself out of a job, to have taught you enough that you can go out and do it on your own. And that's what I want for you too. This isn't about you becoming reliant on a coach for your adjustments. This is about you being a macro scientist in your own journey and you being able to hold the keys to your success. So what data points should you be gathering, collecting, and analyzing on your journey? Well, here's a list of them, okay? Having these data points are going to allow you to make adjustments based on logic and data rather than emotion. So I talk in Macros 101 about the difference between qualitative and quantitative data points. Now, if your brain just went to mush because I said a sciencey word, stick with me. Quantitative just means that it is number oriented. Qualitative means there's a metric, but it's a little bit more floofy, right? But both are important in our journey, right? Qualitative data and things that you should be, and I want you to go through this list. Can you do a check mark for each of these? If you're going through this list and you're noticing, hey, I'm not taking one of these data points, this is an opportunity for you to start taking that data point. So some of the qualitative data that I like my clients to gather are progress pictures. I really, really, really recommend relaxed and flexing progress pictures, especially for my friends who are weightlifting. Take relaxed progress pictures and flexing. Monitoring your stress. Stress can really play into the results that you're getting. Monitoring your non-scale victories. These are things outside of the scale of progress that you're being able to make. How your clothes are fitting and your relationship with food. These are all things that can get better or it can improve or get worse, and we're wanting to gather those data points so that we know that we're moving in the right direction. And then some of the quantitative data points that you're going to be gathering are your calories and or your macros eaten. Now, this is very different than saying these are your numbers, you have to hit them. What I am more concerned about is not what your goal macros are, but what you actually are eating. And if those aren't the same, that's okay. I'm much more concerned with what you're actually eating. That can take a little bit of stress off of when you're tracking your macros. What's the goal of it? The goal is really just to be aware. Just to be aware of what you're consuming. Not to be so stressed about hitting the numbers that it ruins your life. Other quantitative data points that you're going to be taking, of course, your weight, but that is not the only data point because we made that point yesterday that weight and fat aren't the same thing. And then your measurements. This is the one, I don't know why women I actually do know why women struggle with measurements. I talk about it with my clients all the time. But a lot of women struggle taking measurements. And they are one of the biggest data points that you can and should be following in your journey. And again, just like progress pictures, especially my friends who are lifting, I recommend doing relaxed and flexing measurements and using that data over time. So having these data points will allow you to make those adjustments based on logic and data rather than a feeling. I feel discouraged. I feel stuck. I feel like I've gained weight. Feelings aren't reliant. They're not reliable. Data is. That's why we have this idea of the scientist, okay? Now, because I know if you're like most, this is a new process for you and you're gonna worry that you're gonna make the wrong adjustments. What if I adjust wrong? What if I tweak the wrong thing? Which is why inside of Macros 101, the coaches and I are there personally to coach you through the process so that you won't make any mistakes. You're not going to make any big blunders because we're there to, again, put those guidelines and those bumpers on you and to guide you through the process. Not to tell you what to do, not to give you advice, but to guide you in finding what's going to be most effective and enjoyable for your body. All right, last secret word for your bingo card is the word inevitable. Inevitable. So at this point, if you've been following along and you've been getting every single worksheet and you come to every single live, you'll have this secret phrase entirely spelled out. Don't put it in the chat. This is for you. This is for you to know if you were able to fill that out. All right, that brings us to ingredient number 5. Remember we talked about just like a cake needs all of these ingredients, and if you miss one of the ingredients, it's not going to work. It's the same thing. These 5 ingredients, you need every single one of them, and if you're missing one of them, well, maybe now you know why you stayed stuck. And this ingredient might be the one that most women are missing. What causes 95% of the women who lose weight with traditional dieting to regain it all back and more? The answer is metabolic adaptation. And executing your reverse diet is the answer to this. So your metabolism, my metabolism, all of our metabolisms are adaptable. Meaning, just like a fire, the more fuel you put on the fire, the hotter it burns. And if you start taking logs off the fire, the lower the log burns. When you're dieting, you're essentially removing fuel from the fire, which over time will slow down your metabolism. Metabolism plus those deviations from your low calories mean your weight is going to rebound and quickly. And a lot of you have seen this pattern, lose and rebound. Unless you fire up your metabolism again. And that is why you cannot skip the step of reverse dieting. A reverse means you'll be able to eat more calories while maintaining all the results of your hard work. Now, I'm just blowing your mind, some of your guys' minds. You're like, what, Amber? The secret to getting the results that I want is to eat more food? That feels very counterintuitive. It sounds a little too good to be true. I assure you that it is not. We have thousands of women who have gone through reverse diets in Macros 101. Leslie is one of those. And she started Macros 101 eating 1,400 calories a day, ended the program eating 2,300 calories a day, and she gained 0 pounds. If you want to hear Leslie's full story, she tells it on episode 114 of my podcast, Biceps After Babies Radio. But Leslie is one of thousands of women who have gone through this process, who have trusted this process of maybe, just maybe, the secret to the results I want isn't just eating less. Now, a reverse diet is very simple, but simple is not the same thing as easy. Basically, with a reverse, all you're doing is you're slowly titrating. Ooh, there's a big sciencey word for you, right? You're slowly adding calories to your diet, allowing time for your body to adapt. So you're just giving your body a little bit of extra calories, and then your body, like I talked about with the fire, it's like you put a little extra fuel in the fire gets bigger. You put a little extra fuel in the fire gets bigger. That's the process of a reverse diet. It's very simple. And it's, for a lot of women, it's very not easy. The reason is because it's counterintuitive. You have been told your whole life that the secret to a flat stomach is restriction and always eating less. And if you're like most, this idea of a reverse or going through a reverse, you're gonna feel hesitant and worried and maybe even a little scared that you're gonna flush all of your hard work down the drain. Which is why inside of Macros 101, I don't only teach you how to reverse, right? It's really not that complicated. But the coaches and I actually coach you through the process. So when that fear comes up, we can coach you through. Instead of guessing, do I add calories this week or do I not? You'll be able to check in with a coach to reduce your worry and your stress as you go through this vital step that too many women skip, and then they wonder why they can't maintain their results. Now, some of you are listening, and you're like, I hear you, Amber. That reverse sounds like something I'll do down the road. Because this girlfriend has 50 pounds to lose. And then I promise you, then I will do the reverse. And if that's you, and you've been someone who's been eating low calorie and you've been dieting for years, every Friday I've been interviewing a woman who's gone through Macros 101, and the number of women who have come on and talked about their years, like their 40 years of dieting. Leslie was one of them. She said, I was on a diet for 40 years before I found Macros 101. If you've been someone who's been on a diet for years and you have a lot of weight to lose, it's really easy to think, oh, the next step is to go into a cut. And I want you to know that just maybe, probably, the next step is a reverse. And that can be very hard to wrap your head around, and I get it. And I love you so much, and that's something that the coaches and I can help coach you through because there's probably a lot of fear that comes up when you hear me say that. So, this is the step-by-step process. These are the 5 steps. You want to become a macro scientist? You want to get results in your journey? You got to have all the ingredients. You got to set your starting macros. You got to design your customized meal plan. You got to remove the mental blocks. You have to make data-driven adjustments, and you need to execute your reverse diet. And as you're looking at this list and this ingredient list, chances are you've identified one or more of these that may be currently missing in your journey. And so that awareness is so powerful and so important because now you can start to change it. So you finally have a step-by-step plan that you can follow to supercharge your results. And now that you have that plan, what are you going to do with it? As my trainer said years ago, I can't do your push-ups for you. So now you have a choice to make. Are you going to go back to where you were at the beginning of the week and continue to struggle, or are you going to take what you learned and apply it? It's not about more content. It's not about consuming more information. It's about applying that information. And now you have those steps. Now I know even with, the right plan and the right steps, a big challenge for a lot of you is believing in yourself. Look, we all struggle with the thought that I haven't been successful in the past, which makes me hesitant to try in the future. Maybe that question is percolating in your brain of am I really going to be able to do this? And I want you to ask yourself the question, how do you expect to reach the destination if you're trying to drive a car while staring in the rearview mirror? Right? A lot of you are doing that right now. Your focus is so much on what's happened in the past, the failures you've had in the past, the struggles you've had in the past, that you can't even drive the car forward because your eyes are in the rearview mirror. Deciding what's possible for you in the future based off of the past is a recipe to continue to get the results you've always gotten in the past. And the fact that you're here means that you want new results, which means you got to pull your eyes out of the mirror. Get your eyes out of the rearview mirror, focus on where you want to go rather than where you have been. And if you're still struggling and you don't quite believe your success is inevitable yet, then you can borrow my faith. You can borrow my faith in you. And no, those aren't just some hollow, oh, I hope you feel a little bit better by saying that. I've pushed through so many of my own blocks, so many of my own limitations, and I have proved that what works for me works for other people who follow these steps. We've had almost 6,000 women go through Macros 101. 6,000 women who have tested this process and has been able to make it work for them. And one of those is Marianne Smith. So she is our final transformation finalist. After this video, I'll be giving you a link. You are going to get to go and vote. I've shown 5 videos this week. After Marianne's will be the 5th video. And hopefully those videos have been very inspiring to you. These women have put themselves out there, have shared what they have learned with you. And now it's your job to give a little back to them by going and voting for your favorites. The winner of the transformation contest will get to be flown out to California and get to have a day hanging out with me. And so there's a lot riding on the line. So we're going to finish with the last video of Marianne Smith.
Hi, my name is Marianne, and I went through Macros 101 in the spring, and I am so glad I did. I have always struggled with body image from age 13 and on. I had my first baby at 19, and then I struggled even more after that. I went through yo-yo dieting, binge and restrict, you name it, I probably went through it. Before Macros 101, I went through a different macros coaching program where they set the numbers for you. Although I got a great baseline for macros, I was never eating more than 1,500 calories. Once I saw that Amber was going to teach me how to fish, I was hooked. I reverse dieted, and I have been living it up at maintenance ever since. I have to say though, I have to be honest, about halfway through the program, my great-grandfather had a stroke, went on hospice, and passed away, which meant I was not counting macros during that time. People were providing food for us. We were making funeral arrangements. Basically just life happened. Thankfully, the following week, Amber put out a recommitment call, and that really kickstarted me back into working on myself more mentally than anything. It really hit me for the first time that I am in a much more confident place now. When we were on vacation this summer, and I wore 3-inch shorts that I had only worn once a year ago, and I never wore them again because I did not like what I saw in them. This summer, I wore them the entire day without judging myself, and it dawned on me, wow, I am in a different spot than I was a year ago, and that's thanks to Macros 101. I also want to say during the 8 weeks, I did not lose any weight. I only lost 2 inches overall, and I may tell myself that, wow, that's not a transformation worth sharing. But what the scale doesn't tell you or me is that I went from eating 1,500 calories to eating 2,100 calories. I went from deadlifting my body weight barely for 1 rep to deadlifting my body weight for 3 sets of 8 reps this week. I went from caring about the scale going down to actually being okay with it going up. I went from hating my stretch marks and cellulite to realizing I am beautiful and I am worthy no matter what. I went from eating healthy to actually being healthy. Am I perfect? No. Am I still learning? Yes, and I hope I always will. My husband and I just started trying for our 3rd baby, and thanks to Amber and the Macros 101 team, I have never been more confident entering pregnancy and postpartum. So thank you so much, Amber, and thank you to the whole team, because you've changed my life.
Oh, I mean, gosh, Marianne, the short story is the one that gets me. I don't know. I think a lot of women have ideas about what clothes they can and can't wear and what clothes they feel confident in. And hearing Marianne and her short story just like gives me all the feels. It's likely been very evident as you watch these case study videos every single day this week that Macros 101 is different. It's unlike any other macro counting program out there, and it changes not only your body but your life. And really proud of these women and the change that they have. I always am very clear that I provide a container, I provide a space, I provide education, I provide coaching, and then the women do the work. I can't do it for you. I didn't do it for these women. I did my part. I provided the coaching. I dug deep. I helped them. I coached them. I educated them. I even cheerleaded them on, and these women did the work. And it can be the same for you. So now you have an opportunity to be able to vote for which of these women spoke to you the most. There's 5 of them. All of them have amazing stories, but my guess is as you listened, one of them resonated a lot with you. You're like, that was the one that just like really spoke to my soul. And this is an opportunity for you to give back to these women as a thank you for them being willing. It's a little vulnerable to share your story to all people. Worried about people are going to judge you, or that's not a really great transformation. These women have put themselves out there, and all we're asking is for you to go and vote for your favorite. So if you go to bicepsafterbabies.com/vote, all you need to do is just vote for your favorite, and we will be announcing the transformation contest winner next week. Oh, slide deck. So inside of Macros 101, I walk you through the 5 steps that we outlined today. I got you started with some of those steps so that you can step into that role of the macro scientist much easier and quicker than you could doing it on your own. Now, losing the weight, creating a transformation, eating more food, creating a better relationship with your body or with food doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to suck. It doesn't have to be about cutting all the fun things in life. I love being able to eat food and not feel guilty. I don't ever feel guilt when I eat food. It hasn't always been that way. I used to feel very guilty eating certain foods, but I've been able to move to a place where I now honestly can say I never feel guilty eating food. I love being able to look at myself in the mirror and feel very proud of what I see, whether I have a 6-pack or not. I don't have a 6-pack right now. I'm still very proud of the woman that I see. I love walking into a room and feeling confident, and what has become very meaningful for me is helping other women to be able to enjoy the same. So now, friend, it is your time. Macros 101 is not open yet. I want to be really clear. This week was about serving you. I'm not selling anything right now. You cannot even buy it. Can't buy Macros 101. And that's important to me because this week was not about selling. This week was about serving. And I hope you feel like I showed up in that energy of serving you. So Macros 101 will be open soon. It'll be open in a few short days, and at that time, we'll talk about all the details of the program. We'll talk about everything that you need to have to be able to decide if you are a right fit for the program and if the program is a right fit for you. But if you are an action taker and you're like, dang, I'm so excited, I want to be the first in line for when Macros 101 opens up next week, all you have to do is go to bicepsafterbabies.com/go. This will put you on a challenge-only wait list for the people who are here in the challenge who are like ready to go and wanting to sign up. You will get the first dibs at Macros 101, and you can go to bicepsafterbabies.com/go. Now, this is separate from our general wait list that we have open all year. So if you've already signed up for the general wait list and you are still really interested, go get on this challenge-only wait list at bicepsafterbabies.com/go. It has been an honor. Gosh, I'm gonna get emotional. It's been an honor to coach you this week, and I hope that you're looking back and realizing the changes that you've been able to make. It's an honor to be able to, okay, I'm gonna compose myself. One of the most important things that you can give someone is your time. And I hope that I've made the time that you've invested this week worth it. I hope that you're seeing the growth that you're starting to make, how you've been able to become different this week. Change takes time, and it takes effort. You cannot just snap your fingers. I wish that were the case. But you came, you showed up this week, you took action, and you're starting to create that change. And if you want to continue that momentum with me, I'd love to do that with you in Macros 101. If you're like, Amber, I'm good, amazing. I'm so glad you were here and gave me of your time this week. You can do this. Your success is inevitable. And I cannot wait to hear from you as you go out and smash your goals. Take care.